Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. Our show deals with challenging times, and our guest today, Adam Conkey, is the site administrator for Fort Hays State Historic Site. He and his team have a challenge ahead of him, and we're going to talk about that project in just a moment. But Adam, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
So first off, I want to learn a little bit about you. What brought you to the Fort Hays State Historic Site?
That's a really great question. Well, I took a few years there back in the early 2000s to get my master's degree in history, and I had a lifelong passion for history. I started out here, though, professionally, working over at Ellis County Historical Society with Amanda Rupp. And they've got their own particular set of challenges in that area. Someone happened to know I was working over there and wanted to know if I'd like to also put some time in out at historic Fort Hays. And so I did. And those small little connections we make in life, well, they sometimes lead to bigger projects. And long and short of it, yeah, that's how I got out to historic Fort Hays and working for the Kansas Historical Society.
When I talk to younger people, especially, I talk about those forks in the road that lead to careers. It sounds like you have one of those. Have you always had an interest in history?
Oh yeah, ever since I was a little kid. In fact, Fort Hays, not to be cliche about it, but this really was the first museum I remember ever seeing as a kid. And that was a particularly unique day. I think some of us in the community out here still remember Frontier City back in 1990 and how the bypass highway out here kind of had a big influence for a while. We went out to Frontier City, saw that, came out to Fort Hays. Of course, the welcome sign on Interstate there on Vine Street has Bill Hickok peering over the Welcome to Hays sign. So I was kind of indoctrinated as a little kid. So it was really easy for me to come out here and start working. Never thought it would happen, but here we are now.
And you probably had some parents or family members that helped get you to that because when you're
Oh,
younger,
yeah.
when you're younger, you just don't show up at a museum. Somebody takes you there.
No, my parents brought me out here. That was a day trip, and I'm from originally from Kansas, and so we're raised on a farm up there. Uh, Farm life, if it's raining out, like we had a little sprinkle yesterday, you might not be planning to get into the field. So you're going to go do something somewhere, and Hays is a place that we usually would go to on weekends. So yeah, I had great uncles that were always telling stories about World War II or some of the drought that happened in the 30s, which we seem to see crop up here now and again with some of the dust storms we get. But really long, healthy interest in storytelling, and it all came from that.
So when you took the job, you ended up taking over a lot of responsibility out at the fort. What all do you do there? Or maybe what all don't you do, but what all do you do? What's your job entail?
Well, first and foremost, like our job out here is preservation. We want to make sure that the site is cared for and well maintained, and that's a very difficult process to undertake. I have a lot of support from the big offices in Topeka, but I'm the eyes on the ground. So if something is going wrong out here, I'm the first one to notice, and the reporter, the one that tries to make sure nothing burns down, so to speak, out here. We'd hate to lose something precious to us, like our blockhouse or our guardhouse or just any small thing related to our collective culture and history out here. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's a lot of work in a lot of different ways. You got to wear a lot of hats and know a lot of people and talk to the right ones at the right time, so to speak. So I'm out doing yard maintenance. I'm greeting our visitors come out that want to know the level of details of history they're interested in. And of course, not everybody's not everybody's as interested in the same level of hearing about the fort as maybe their husband that dragged them out here might be. So
You know,
you kind of got to gauge how your visitors might respond to your speech, I suppose.
where are people coming from?
Everywhere, everywhere. I've had people from Finland, the Netherlands, a lot of people traveling across the state of Kansas on a family vacation. Some of them traveling to the state of Kansas on a family vacation from Illinois. It's we just get about everybody from about everywhere, and Interstate I-70 has really propelled our ability to get our word out.
One of the things I know that people like are the storytelling, where reenactors come to talk about people associated with historic Fort Hayes. How do you line up those actors? How do you get that in place? And is that something that draws a lot of people as well?
Oh yeah. People actually more than often than not really want to see somebody dressed up out here portraying someone from the time period to make it feel more out of time. We all live our everyday lives in 2026 or in the future 2027 and what goes beyond that. Sometimes we'd like to come back and have a little bit of escape from our modern life and see something from a time before. And this historic site has some element of that with the reenactments we get to do. And it's in the past, there have been quite a bit more of that uh, than there is now. It is difficult to find volunteers, but that are willing to put on a wool uniform in 100-degree temperatures in the summer. But there are plenty of opportunities for all of that. How I find a lot of the volunteers, I'm active in the community in other ways. I volunteer and am president of the Hayes Community Theater presently, and a lot of my friends involved with that have come out here and helped me with past events, whether it be our flagship event, Christmas Past, or graveside conversations, which we've done every Halloween, in some manner or form. I know a few people to call to come out and help out for a few days, so or even a couple of hours, if it may be.
Well, when you walk out there, you see a different world of where it was. You know, as we're talking, we have astronauts that are shooting to the moon.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you
right.
know, that's on one hand. On the other hand, we got there because of what we did and the way our communities grew and were able to support those kind of programs that got us to where we are today. One of the things that is a project that I know you have going on that people talk about a lot, and it's one of those things, it's the Blue Light Lady.
Yeah,
And you have a project going on that is really going to bring that, I'll say, the Blue Light Lady to life. Talk
that's
about
right.
that just a little bit. What are you doing?
Well, Pete Felton back in 1982 had constructed a statue out of limestone for the city of Hayes and the Hayes Arts Council, and they dedicated a park down near Indian Trail. And that statue is kind of set off on its own for a little while. One of our Society of Friends members decided to take on a big project and try to relocate that lonely statue out here to Fort Hayes. And the history behind the Blue Light Lady, in particular, a name associated with her, Elizabeth Polly, as the history goes, that has kind of a mythic lore to her story that's hard to pin down from actual documents in history. But one thing that is always known about this person is that she died from cholera when we had the cholera epidemic in 1867, and she was the wife of the hospital steward at the post at Fort Hayes. His name was Ephraim Pauley. Those are most of the facts of the story. Cholera is she's the personification of what they used to call the blue plague. And cholera was one of the worst things to hit the area early on. It basically ended the idea of the town site of Rome that Buffalo Bill Cody had tried to establish. That was one of the reasons lot of big details in that one to see why that town site failed and why Hays City became the ultimate spot for the railroad siding. So um, Elizabeth Polly has a lot of connection to that very early history in 1867 in that summer when a lot of events were happening all at once.
So many people don't know where the sculpture is. They talk about the blue light lady that you can see south of town. If I have
Yeah.
the myth right there, if you drive out at a certain point in time, and if you're lucky enough, you'll see a blue light lady on the hill back there. Do I have that pretty close?
That's pretty close to the ghost story. Sentinel Hill was a spot you could kind of see all the surrounding area from, just about 2 miles south of Fort Hays itself proper, and that happened to be the legend that Elizabeth Polly would go spend her free time enjoying the view out there at Sentinel Hill. And of course, I want to encourage everybody to not go out there without contacting the private owner. That's that's just the thing. We got to do a little plug on that. A lot of Fort Hays students and kind of initiation to the area is to try to go out there and see the blue light lady. I worked out here for a few years and I've been out here at dusk different times. I suppose if there's going to be a spirit walking around, I might have seen one already, but I haven't yet. So I'll
Not
keep my
yet,
eyes
but you are
peeled.
bringing it. You are bringing the Blue Light Lady statue,
That's
and that
right.
might be a new way to take a look at that, especially if it's all lit up right and you do that.
Yeah,
So talk about where the statue is and how you're going to get it out to the fort because his statues are sturdy and heavy. What's the
they are.
plan?
Well, the plan is, well, we've already got the foundations kind of poured for where the statue is going to go. We dug a 5 foot deep hole. Um, of course, we've used our contractor. They brought out an auger and didn't dig it by hand. That'd be a interesting undertaking to get that done. But it's a concrete was poured in that hole just last week, and our the same contractor will be carefully removing the statue up there on Indian Trail, off of Indian Trail at Elizabeth Polly Park, right behind where a lot of your uh, listeners might know where Dairy Queen is. She's directly behind Dairy Queen. You can see her. If a lot of us probably haven't noticed or driven by and just haven't seen her, but she's moving out here to historic Fort Hays, and she'll be on the east side of the visitor center grounds, just about where the near in front of where the hospital complex once was, kind of showcasing that stewardship of health that she was doing when she was alive.
So how do you move the statue? Physically, what do you do? Is it a bunch of guys and some ropes, or there's a how?
There'll be it's a complex mechanism. They've got it's not a bunch of guys in a rope. It's basically a mover with a piece of equipment who will come in and gently try to locate it onto a trailer and move it that way. There'll be straps and all kinds of things like that to get that thing moved. And so it all has to be moved carefully and methodically. Uh, I don't have the particular details on the type of equipment. I'm just a farm boy who knows what got dragged behind a tractor, so I'm not really
Yeah.
terribly
I'm
up to
just thinking
date.
there's concrete holding this down and the statue's limestone. There's a lot of things that have to happen to get that
There's a
thing on a
lot of
trailer.
things going on, a lot of things to think about while it's happening, and you've got like seconds and minutes to kind of figure out just exactly what's moving, how many parts there are to it. Um, if you go out and see her statue right now, there's a lot of difference to her pedestal. She's got a limestone pedestal with some concrete foundation under her, and she sits atop all of that. So the inner core of it might not all be limestone. It's it's kind of a surprise, I suppose.
So will the public be able to watch some of this as it's going on?
The public, if they come out to our site, would be able to watch the placement of the statue more than likely. The removal of it, we do have a date set, but we contractors kind of suggested we not stress him out so much in his location where he's moving her and come out here to Fort Hays. That's where we'll have a little
And you
bit
have
more
more space.
update.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have more space. Well, that all sounds interesting. It's a big project and certainly a big project that ties in with a lot of history. But there's some other history coming up that I want to talk about just a little bit. Adam, hang on. Our program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. Let's take a break. I'll be back with Adam after this.
Since 1776, the United States of America continues to stand tall. It's been tested before, many times. Through grit and the ability to move forward, we create better tomorrows. We help our clients live their best lives to and through retirement. We make it easier. Thank you, Kansas. Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times. Our guest is Adam Conkey, who is with the Fort Hays State Historical Site. And Adam, it's been an enjoyable conversation talking about moving the Blue Light Lady from its current site that's on Indian Trail south of Dairy Queen out to the fort, where probably a lot more people are going to get a chance to see the story and hear the story about what's going on and being able to do that. But there's some other things that are taking place this year that you're going to be really celebrating and talking about. And that's with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Bighorn.
That's
150
right.
years ago, that was a milestone and really one of those things that really set the fort apart and one of the big stories of the fort.
Yeah, it was. Will, at 4th of July, yep, like you said, this is our 250th year of being a country, so to speak, from the Declaration of Independence, happening in 1776. So this is really a big year for all of us thinking forward, like, what are the next 250 years going to look like? So we're kind of sitting here looking at our long-standing traditions and our past and our ultimate culture that binds us together uh, as Americans. And so 250th is one of the big marks of time. And so not celebrating it would be kind of crazy on our end as historians and as people that enjoy the older stories that all connect us together. Um, we're going to have a big event out here on the 4th of July. We're going to have our big flag flying again, and we're going to have live music and a baseball game and all kinds of things, a vintage baseball game, I should say, with old-timey announcer and all kinds of things like that. So right before the fireworks go off, we'll have a good 6, 7 hours of fun out here on the
Well,
hill.
that sounds like fun. And the Battle of Bighorn, the 100 years difference between when our Declaration of Independence was signed, and it was 100 years later that the Battle of Bighorn, moving across the country, all of the things that happened, the railroad and all that. It seems like it maybe wasn't 100 years, but 100 years before you got to that. Will there be some, and I say reenactment, will there be some storytelling about that?
We will have some historical interpretation on the Little Bighorn event and how it connected to Hayes. Our event will happen on the 4th of July rather than 26th of June when the original event occurred for Custer. We will be reenacting or portraying a viewpoint from the officers and their wives when they hear the news first from dispatch and telegram that came through uh, downtown near the railroad depot, and the messenger bringing that out to Fort Hays to tell our post commander Carr exactly what was going on at that point. So it's going to be a very interesting showcase for 150 years after Custer's defeat at Little Bighorn. So a really, really interesting detail there. And of course, like we were talking about volunteers and things like that before, it's going to take a lot to put all of this together and to make it more interesting for the public. Um, we're recruiting as many people as we can to show up and get them into uniforms and things like that. So,
One thing about if you volunteer, if you don't know history, if you volunteer to help, you're going to learn a lot about history just
oh yeah,
because
you're
you're
compelled
putting
to.
that. Yeah, you now you live that history, and you're going to learn a lot more. I'm a farm boy like you, and sometimes when you're out there doing it, you learn a lot more by doing it. So if you want to be a volunteer, somebody out there is listening, said, that sounds really interesting. I would like to be a part of it. How do they find you, Adam?
Well, they can contact us. We've got our website on the Kansas Historical Society. There's a specific tab for Fort Hays State Historic Site, where you can Google us as well. We're on there. We have a place on Facebook as well to contact us on. My email and the site's email will be on the state website, and also don't hesitate to call us if you want to get involved. Our phone number will be immediately on a Google response to the question, where is Fort Hays, and what information is there to get out there. So um, that is the easiest ways to get a hold of us is just to come visit.
What about
Because
the
I'll
ad?
talk your
That's
head
what
off.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. If you want to do it, just come out and,
Yeah.
and just look for a guy named Adam out there. He may be mowing the lawn, he may be trimming, he may be setting up the blue light lady.
That's right.
But look for Adam, and you'll figure out something to have them help, whether volunteer to
Yeah.
help people get in the right
We
area or do that. So,
Yeah, we do have a few days coming up where we've dedicated some of it to just volunteer training, volunteer ideas if anybody wants to come up. And it isn't just people that dress up in uniforms. There's all kinds of ways to volunteer at a museum and be helpful to make sure that that history uh, goes out to more people. Uh, we don't have tour guides like we used to have in the 1990s, but I'd like to get up to that level again of having personal tours for large groups of people all the time. So happy to have that continue on, and our job is one of education primarily.
we have a wonderful history here. And those of you who are listening, get a chance, think about volunteering, thinking about going to the website or the Facebook page, and better yet, driving out to meet Adam and his team out there and be a part of some of the history of Hayes, the history, frankly, of Western Kansas and Kansas as that goes on. Adam, thanks for being on our program today.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Our guest is Adam Conkey, who is the site administrator at Fort Hays State Historic Site. Interesting stuff. The Blue Light Lady will be moving out there. That's a whole story in and of itself. We talked about that. You may be able to actually find her now when she's out at Fort Hays State Historical Site. Adam, again, thanks. And thanks for listening. Our program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.